Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Hopefully you can see and hear me okay. We will get started with our session very soon. Let me pull up our presentation here. There we go. Welcome, everyone. This is our session introducing the new automation builder. So this has already been out. This is already available. We are just showcasing some of the new features. So as usual for this session, you can type your questions into the Q&A. The webinar chat will only be available for our panelists to add in some knowledge base article links just to go along with anything I talk about. But feel free to ask any questions during the session. That's more than welcome. And you can do that in the Q&A so that we can see your questions easier and our panelists will be able to answer those. We will also have more of a Q&A section at the end of the session, so I will be able to answer some questions live, hopefully. All right, looks like we are about a minute in, so I will slowly get started. Welcome to our session today. This is introducing MailerLite's new workflow builder. So of course, we've had a workflow builder for a while now, and we've just added some new features that have been slowly released over the last few weeks. You may have already noticed if you've been playing around with the builder, you probably have noticed a couple new things. So we'll go ahead and go more into that. Once again, chat is just for panelists to add in links. Any questions, please ask in the Q&A. The session's also being recorded, so if you have to leave early or anything, we'll send it out to all registrants. Okay, quick intro. My name is Harmony. I'm a customer education specialist here at MailerLite. I help write the knowledge base articles and work with the tutorials as well. So I worked with this new builder and have learned a lot about the new features. Hopefully I can just answer everyone's questions. So quick agenda, we might go the full hour for this session. It could be a little bit less. But in the beginning, I'll just do a very quick automation overview. I'm assuming a lot of people here will understand what automations are, but I will just go over just some basics so we're all on the same page with what we're actually talking about with automations, workflows, all of that. Then, of course, I'll go into the demo. This is where I'll talk about the new features that we have released and show that in the app. And then at the very end, if there's any questions left over, I will go ahead and answer those, but feel free to ask any questions along the way. Okay, so one of the first things I will mention is automations versus campaigns. Campaigns are included in workflows. We send emails when we create workflows, but they are two different things when we talk about them. So an email automation, workflow, those words are interchangeable. They are a sequence of steps that include things like emails, but they could also include actions. You can unsubscribe subscribers. You can do many different things within one workflow. Whereas a campaign is just a standalone email newsletter, and you can send that as a one-off email, but it is not a sequence or a flow. Okay, when to use automations. So I'm going to talk about what automations are normally used for. One of the first things I will do, though, is we have a poll that I want to start, which I will just run in the background. So this is our Can It Be Automated? We asked a lot of you for this to give us some example that you've been wanting or something that you're already doing. What would you like to see automated? And so we put that into this little segment. It's 6 questions, and it's 6 different scenarios asking, can this be automated? So I will go through and answer these, and I will show you whether or not they can be. But the first one, so new subscribers welcome campaign. Is that something that MailerLite can automate? Is that, anything that we can do? Based on a segment, can you automate? Can you create an automation based on a segment? Is that true or not? When a subscriber replies to an email, again, these are all things that you submitted that as registrants, and we've put into this poll. So, can a automation be fired when a subscriber replies to an email? That was a question that was asked. So, yes or no? I will confirm or deny. Sending emails leading up to an event, is that something that can be automated? Based on which pages customers have visited on my website, can that be automated using MailerLite automations or not? As well as delivering a lead magnet. So I'm going to let that poll run in the background, and I will slowly go through just some common scenarios here. So of course, one of the main things that you can do with an automation is the welcome series. That is, I would say, a very one of the first automations that you might set up as a beginner. This is to welcome new subscribers, and it can be created in many different ways. This can be when subscribers join a certain group that you have in MailerLite. Maybe you have a form. Either way, it is just a welcome email to say, this is our business, welcome to the newsletter, this is what you can expect from the newsletter. We typically do recommend always to have some kind of welcome series. If you are delivering a lead magnet, also a way. Birthday wishes, of course, this is something that you can do automatically with workflows. So you don't have to go through everyone's birthdays and sit there and, manually send out an email on the day of. You can easily just automate this. This is something that I will be showing in the demo, but just to give you an idea of what automations can or cannot do. Birthday wishes, yes, you can use it to send personalized birthday greetings, as well as any date-based event. So wedding anniversaries, graduation dates, all of these can also be automated. Birthday wishes is one of the more popular, but any date-based can work. Post-purchase follow-up. So this could be for many different things. It could be for a specific item that was purchased, a category. It could be abandoned cart emails. But this is, of course, when we're talking about e-commerce, if you have a Shopify shop or WooCommerce, any kind of store, you can connect that to MailerLite and have the e-commerce features. I will be showing this, but you can use automations, of course, for e-commerce. Re-engagement campaigns, so reconnecting with inactive subscribers. So these are subscribers that haven't opened or clicked any emails in a while. You might want to unsubscribe them if they really aren't interested in your content anymore. But before you do that, you can also use re-engagement campaigns. So this is something that is very commonly used with automations, one of the more popular ways to use automations. And of course, event reminders. So one of the poll questions here, I will leave this poll open for just another few seconds. But one of the poll questions was sending emails leading up to an event. And yes, you can, of course. So you can send emails that remind when a specific event is happening. That could be a physical in-person event, that could be an online event, anything. But you can, of course, send those invites and reminders using automations, so you're not having to manually send out a week before, a day before. All of that can be set up in advance. All right, so I am now going to be talking about the new updates, and I will end this poll so we can all see the results. And I will also just confirm some of these things as I talk about these new updates. Okay, so the first one, new subscriber welcome campaign, we talked about that. Yes, of course, you can use it to fire an email when a subscriber joins your list for the first time. Let's look at some of these new updates, and I will go through the poll and answer some of these as well. One of the first improvements that we have brought to the automation editor is the ability to drag and drop. So before, things were a little bit different. You were not able to drag and drop the way you could with our other editors, like the campaign editor, landing page. Now you can. You can drop steps in as well as use the drag and drop to rearrange. I will be showing this. And this answers question 3 in the poll. So I can see some people actually said no, you cannot fire an automation, or sorry, not number 3. It was number 2, based on a segment. So I saw some people said no, you cannot based on a segment. You used to not be able to. That was not possible before, but with the new updates, we have added a new segment trigger. So it's true, in the past, you could not fire an automation based on segment activity. Now you can. So that is now something that is possible with the automation editor. As I mentioned, the drag and drop also lets you reorder your automations or your automation steps. So again, this was not possible in the past. You would have to delete a step and then recreate it where you wanted to add it again. But now you do have the ability to just drag and drop steps around. Um, this does not ruin or mess up the automation because as you can see, when you are dropping steps, it shows you where they can go. So it's not going to allow you to drop steps into places that will not actually work for an active workflow. It's very intuitive so that if you are rearranging steps, it rearranges them in a way so that it still is a functioning workflow at the end. You can now preview automations. This was something that also was not possible. You really would not be able to understand how an automation was actually going to work until it was on and active. Now you can see the automation a bit in advance before it actually is active, before subscribers are going through it. You have the ability now to test the automation emails. And this allows you to just send yourself the completed emails, ignoring delays, conditions, A/B test so that you can actually see all of the emails, how they look in the inbox without having to actually go through the flow as it's intended. This is just a way to make sure everything looks and works how you want it to. And now you have the ability to start automations based on multiple e-commerce triggers. So this was also something not possible. We have had multiple triggers, so the ability to add several triggers at the start rather than one. We have had that for a while, but now that includes e-commerce. That did not include e-commerce before. You can also combine regular and e-commerce triggers. I'll be showing this in our demo, but this is something that is possible. It is now possible to also add subscribers to an automation manually. And again, this was possible in the past, but only when you had a specific group trigger. Otherwise, if you had any other trigger, it was not possible to add subscribers to an automation when it was already active. Now you can. This will actually ignore the trigger itself. So even if the subscriber does not meet those conditions, if you still want to add them, you can do that now. All right. And enough just showing this. Let me go ahead and go over to the actual editor and show some of this in action. And while I do that, I will also talk about some of these other questions in the poll. So one was when a subscriber replies to an email. And I did want to, of course, add a couple scenarios that would be a no. So this is not possible with MailerLite automations. The reason that I did add a couple things that were not possible is to just clear up some maybe confusion or questions about what automations can or cannot do. So we do not have the ability in MailerLite to know when a subscriber has replied to your email because those replies go to your inbox, right? So they do not show up in MailerLite. If anybody replies to your email, we do not monitor or track those replies, which means we can also not fire an automation based off of those. So it looks like most people said that it could, but a lot of people said it can't. It was not possible in the past. It is still not something that can be done, maybe in the future. All right, let's have a look at automations. So our automation tab is here. It used to be down here, but it's been moved over here. In the automations tab, you still have the layout of active workflows versus drafts. These are completed workflows. Some of them might be paused, but they are workflows that have all completed steps. Whereas drafts are not ready to be activated yet. You cannot actually turn a draft workflow on until it has all of the steps it needs. So let's go ahead and go into let's actually start a new automation here. This is all the same. Our templates are still here. Let's start from scratch. And And one of the first things I will show is the drag and drop, as well as this side panel here. This was also not available or not showing before these updates. So you see one of the first things it shows is drop a step here to get started. And it automatically brings up the triggers panel because that is how you start the automation. The triggers are the actions that are taken by subscribers that allow them to enter the automation. So one of the most popular is completing a form. If a subscriber submits their email and name, all their info, completes a form, they can be added to a workflow. And as I mentioned, it is now just drag and drop. The way that you would configure each trigger is still the same. So for this one in particular, you would just select one of the forms. This could also be landing pages and save. I do have the ability to add a second trigger. Multiple triggers is only available on our advanced plans. So if you are on the free plan or growing business plan, you cannot add more than one, but I will be showing just how that looks. Back over to the triggers tab if I wanted to add one more. Let's say I wanted to add joins group. I just drag and drop. So what this means now is one workflow can be triggered either by a form completion or by joining a group. And same way I would configure it as before, I just choose a group or multiple and save. Now that we have added our triggers, we can go back using this plus. And you see it gives us the option now to add rules and actions. This would be the automation steps, is what we have called them in the past, but we still kind of refer to these rules and actions as steps because they are just different steps that you would add in your workflow, but they are separated now. So you still have your delays. This is the timing in between so that you can have, a few days, few weeks in between events. You still have condition steps and A/B test. These were all steps that were available before. They're just now in rules and actions as rules. And we've simplified the actions a bit. So now when you want to send an email, it is a quick action right here. This means that whenever you add this action step, an email goes out, right? So now we just created an automation that has two entry paths and we'll send an email out as soon as someone joins. This would be how you might set up a welcome email, a welcome series, because they just joined using a form. They joined a new group, and now you might send a welcome campaign. Of course, this is an example, but this is all the same as it was in the past. You just configure your email settings. Design email is the same flow as it's always been. You're able to be taken to the campaign editor, design your email, and then, of course, that email would be then added to the workflow. Okay, I do not want to go into the email editor right now, so let me go through this quickly. Of course, this is, again, I mentioned the same as before. You just choose how you want to create your email, and that would go right into the workflow. Because I didn't actually create my email, it shows me that this step is not completed. As I mentioned, you cannot actually activate or turn on a workflow with incompleted steps. We've made it very easy to identify which steps need to be completed. You can also see it right here in this side panel. This area here is the activity hub that shows you what is happening within the automation. Because this isn't on yet, we have no activity really, but I can also use this area to see all of the incompleted steps. So if I had multiple, they would all show right here. All right, let's go ahead and add a few more rules and actions. It is also possible to copy to group, for example. Let's do that. And let's add a delay in between. Just a simple 1 week delay for an example. And you can see we've built out more of a flow. Now I mentioned that you can also use the drag and drop to rearrange everything. So let's have a look at what that looks like. There are a few ways to rearrange steps. One is drag and drop. That would be using this left icon right here. So each step has these dots here on the side that allow you to drag and move. And that is how you move a step using the drag and drop feature. And you can see as I'm moving steps, oops, you can see as I'm moving steps, it will only allow me to drop them where they are available to go. Okay, let me restart this one. Because I also want to show the other way to move steps is by cut and paste. So you can also use these 3 dots on the right to delete a step, but if you cut, it is the same way as the drag and drop. You can paste into an area. This is good if you have a very large workflow and you don't want to be dragging steps around too much. It is much easier to cut and paste. If you did that by accident, you can easily undo, but it is possible to just cut and paste there. And there you go. And as I showed, it's very easy to, of course, just delete a step. You would need to confirm, but those are the 2 ways that you can rearrange steps in your automation. Let's add one more trigger just because this is also one of the new options. Joining a segment, I will bring that over here. So again, this was not possible in the past. You could not start an automation based off of segment activity. How this particular trigger works is if a subscriber meets the conditions of the segment, they join the workflow. But segments are dynamic, right? So there are points at which the subscriber might no longer meet those conditions. If you have this segment trigger and a subscriber is going through these steps, if at some point they no longer meet the segment conditions at all, they're automatically going to be removed from the workflow. And if that happens, you will see here under the Activity tab, you will be able to see under Failed or Canceled the subscribers that have been removed from the automation because they no longer meet the segment. You can see here there's always going to be a reason shown, and it will say subscriber no longer met the segment conditions. So the same way a subscriber enters and exits an automation or a segment will be how it behaves in the automation itself. Once again, segments are over here in the subscribers tab. These are all of our segments in case anyone needs a refresher on what segments are, how they are used. They are created by rules or conditions, as I mentioned. Those rules can be anything. That could be time zone. It could be how long they've been inactive. It can be certain stats, if it opens or clicks. It could be based on purchase history. If you have e-commerce, let's just choose a simple one. Sign up source is imported from file. You see my segment was brought up. So this is why I said it's dynamic. This is how you might start an automation. So if you import a list, they would meet this segment, they would begin the automation. Okay, let's go back. I also talked about the ability to manually add a subscribers. That is possible if it is over here in the Workflows tab and it is an active completed automation. So you see here, this one is inactive, and I don't have the ability to add subscribers, but this one is active, and I do have the ability. So if I click add subscribers, it takes me into the workflow. Again, this is an active workflow. It hasn't been paused yet. And I can add subscribers manually to this. So the way that this workflow in particular is set up is it only fires when a group is joined. But if I want to kind of ignore that or just send subscribers through this anyway, regardless of this is how I can do that. I can choose specific subscribers or I can choose a specific group. So if I want to just add a subscriber, maybe that just joined, or somebody that reached out to me that, needs to be added to this workflow for whatever reason, I can do it that way. Or if I have entire groups that need to go through the automation, I can also set it up like that. And let's look now at once a specific subscriber or a specific group. The next step is to choose whether or not they are added to the start of the automation or whether or not they are added to a specific step, because you can, of course, add them to the first trigger, or you can choose exactly where you want to start them in the automation. You can choose your step and the step details. Okay. And this is the confirmation showing you how those subscribers or which subscribers will be added and how. Okay, I will not actually add any at the moment. This is also the test function. As I mentioned, you have the ability to test the automation this way. It will always be shown up here. And again, this allows you to send yourself all completed emails. In this demo, there's no emails, but this would be where you would test. And you could send yourself all emails, ignoring delays, conditions, A/B tests, all of that. Okay. Let's go ahead and go back to the workflow that we were working on, and I will answer one more of the poll questions, which was number 5. Can you start an automation based off of pages my customers have visited on a website? The answer to that is mostly going to be no, because it will not be able to be that simple. We're not able to track just site visits on your website. As MailerLite, as an email marketing platform, we do not necessarily track just site visits. The only way that would be possible is through a form trigger. So if you had a specific form on a page of your site, you would know that the subscribers going through this automation came from that form on that page. So just site visits, no, because people visiting your site haven't actually signed up for anything. They haven't submitted their email yet. We do not have any of their information just from visiting. But once they submit a form on your site, of course, then we do have all the info we would need to send them an email with their consent. All right, and I believe for the most part, that is the new features. I mentioned e-commerce as well, so only up to three triggers can be added. Let's remove one. so that I can go down here and show a few more. So this dates and events, this is where you would set up your birthday automations, event anniversaries, as I mentioned, graduation dates, any kind of date-based um, event or time. This is how you would add those or start an automation based off of a date. If you connect a store to your MailerLite account, you have e-commerce triggers. These are things like abandoning a cart, buying a specific product, buying any product, or buying from a category. And this is when you connect any e-commerce store that is available with our integrations. So that is WooCommerce, Shopify, BigCommerce, PrestaShop, Squarespace Commerce. We have lots of different e-commerce automations or integrations, I mean. And you can, the same way, drag and drop. As I mentioned, multiple triggers is an advanced feature. So let's just show one. But in the past, it was not possible to have multiple e-commerce triggers. It was also not possible to combine regular and e-commerce triggers, as I mentioned. All of that is now possible within OneFlow. All right. This is the same. So now we have just moved this particular setting used to be within each individual trigger itself, and now it's just been moved over here into the settings tab. What this is, it's the setting that will dictate whether or not subscribers can re-enter that workflow or not. So maybe you only want them to be able to trigger it once, even if they submit the form again or buy the product again. If they do the action again, you can choose whether or not that would mean they are re-added to the workflow. For whatever reason, you might not want subscribers to be, to go through the flow every time the action is taken. So now you can choose that here rather than deciding it in each trigger itself. All right, and I think as far as the new updates, that is mostly it. Let me go ahead and move over back to our presentation here, and I can hopefully answer some questions. Hopefully that was not too quick or too confusing. And I believe I answered all of the poll questions. So new subscriber welcome campaign, yes, it can be automated. Based on a segment, yes, it can be automated. Subscriber replies to an email, no, we cannot automate that. Sending an email leading up to an event, you can do that. That is how you would use those delays that I showed. So if your event is 7 days away, you can have a 2-day delay, a 5-day delay, and that would separate those emails. So that an email would go out, 5 days before the event, 3 days before the event, 24 hours before, etc. Based on which pages customers have visited, I mentioned no, we cannot unless they submit a form. And delivering a lead magnet was the last one. Yes, it can. It looks like most people got that one right. It can. Again, that could be many different ways, whether it's by submitting a form and you include the lead magnet in an email, many different ways to deliver a lead magnet. Let me just see if there are any questions that I can answer for you live, if anything has come up. So I do see someone asking about an integration with BookFunnel, but I think that this could be answered just for many integrations. Somebody asked, I'm very new to this. I use both MailerLite and BookFunnel together, And now MailerLite has the ability to deliver lead magnets. So do you need to be using both BookFunnel and the MailerLite lead magnet? I really do think it depends what kind of lead magnet you are delivering, because I will preview this in MailerLite. In MailerLite, you can only deliver certain kinds of digital lead magnets. So PDFs, images, anything that can go into the file manager. So PDFs or EPUB files, okay? Those can be added. So you can add PDF guides here, and those can be added as lead magnets into campaigns. So you don't need to have a specific integration for that. But I would just say if BookFunnel or your other integration allows you to add, different types of lead magnets besides what is available, then you can still, of course, keep it. But if it is things like PDFs, those can be added here. Okay. Let's see. I do see, okay, let's see. I do see somebody asked about using a template. So can you show how to use a template, automation template, and edit that, of course. So let me go back into here, automations. I didn't really demo this before because this isn't new. This is not updated. This has been this way, but I will, of course, for people wondering. We do have automation templates. So what this is rather than starting from complete scratch, you can have a shell, I guess, of a workflow that you can add details to. So let's just choose a simple one. We have welcome emails, inactive subscribers to win those back, retargeting. We have specific ones for online courses, birthdays. Some of these are advanced plan. Webinar invitations would also work for leading up to an event. Abandoned cart. These are all of the e-commerce. Premium members, maybe you want to separate subscribers if they fall into a certain category. But let's simplify it and let's just go with retarget subscribers. Preview. So you can just see what it looks like. And if you like it, select template. And you can see the automation isn't fully done, but the actual structure of it has been already created for me. So I still have to fill out specific details. I have to specify here in this trigger which field is updated. I have to actually, go through these conditions. This isn't set up for me, but I don't want this to be set up for me because I do want to choose, which field update would start this. Then here it has an email step, but there's no email created for me. So I do need to go through and do the subject line, design the email, all of that. 3-day delay is already set up for me, but I can change it. Condition, already set up, but I can edit anything. And same thing, whenever you see an empty email step, it just means I still have to actually set up the email here, but the step is shown. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And the nice thing about knowing all of the incomplete steps is you can see right over here exactly which steps need to be filled out. So we see we need to update the trigger and we need to fill out all of these email steps. And once all those are done, we'll be able to activate the flow. If I try to activate it now, it will not let me because, of course, those steps are not completed. All right, I think when it comes to file manager, it's still, yes, images as well. So PDFs, EPUB files, but also image files like JPEGs or PNG. That is all still accepted with the file manager. All right, it looks like that is mainly it. I do see somebody asking about form activity. I will show that briefly just because we're here, but this is outside of automations. Forms, you would see all of your forms with the overview. Overview is how you see everything happening with your forms. Who signed up, who subscribed, conversion rates, everything. Overview. Okay, I think that is mostly it. Let me go back to presentation here. And I think if there are no other big questions, thank you, Claudia, for answering a lot of these. I can see Um, it looks like that is mainly it. So thank you everyone for joining. I will be sending out a lot of resources. So we'll be sending out the email after the session that includes our knowledge base articles that show, more in depth everything that I've demoed in this session. You can really see it all in the actual knowledge base article. We have redone a lot of our tutorials as well. So a lot of our video tutorials are updated to show this new workflow, and we're releasing more all the time. So I will be sending that out after the session is over, but hopefully I was able to answer any questions and demo, and show everyone the new features. All right, I will send out more information, but everyone, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next session. Bye, everyone.